Horrifyingly, a single mother, starving and freezing, is forced to download an escort app just to find someone to talk to on a bitterly cold winter night, with the desperate message, "Conversation only, please be kind to me." But what happens when the man who knocks on the door of her rundown apartment is no ordinary stranger, but Vincent Moretti, the richest and most powerful mafia boss in Chicago, a man who has ordered killings without blinking an eye? From the moment he reads her plea for help, his stone-cold heart suddenly cracks, and an intense, passionate love erupts, ready to spill blood, to overhaul his entire dark criminal empire just to protect this stranger and her little boy. Can love be born from extreme poverty and ruthless power? Can a man who lives in darkness become the light that saves her? This story will leave you breathless, in tears, and believing that true love always finds a way, even if it has to be paid for in blood. Before we dive into this chilling and mysterious story, please remember to subscribe to the channel Alex Truths and like this video. Every subscription, like, and share from you is a huge spiritual gift and an incredibly profound source of motivation for the channel's growth, so we can continue bringing wonderful videos every day to everyone. There would be no greater joy than receiving your love and support through the comments you leave right below this video. Comments sharing your emotions, or telling us which province or city you're living and working in while listening to this story. All right, let's continue together and immerse ourselves in this amazing, captivating story that's filled with deep emotions. It was the kind of Chicago winter that clawed its way into your bones and refused to leave. October 2025 had brought early snow, the kind that piled against cracked windows and turned sidewalks into treacherous ice. Elena Harper, 29 years old, fair-skinned with tired green eyes and hair that hadn't seen a proper cut in years, woke up yet again to the sound of wind howling through the rusted frame of her old Ford Mustang. She had been living in that car for 4 months now. The back seat was her bed, covered with a single threadbare blanket she had found in a church donation bin. Her clothes, 2 pairs of jeans, 3 faded sweaters, 1 thin winter coat with a broken zipper, were folded neatly in the trunk to save space. A half-eaten pack of saltine crackers and a bottle of water sat on the passenger seat, her dinner for the 3rd night in a row. Her stomach ached constantly, a dull, gnawing hunger that never quite went away. She was thin now, too thin, her cheekbones sharp beneath pale skin that rarely saw sunlight anymore. Elena had not always been this broken. 3 years earlier, she had been a hopeful art teacher at a Southside public school, engaged to a man named Connor Reynolds, who promised her the world. She had supported him through every failed business idea, paid the rent on their tiny apartment, bought his clothes, even drained her modest savings when he swore the next venture would change everything. When she discovered she was pregnant, joy had flooded her heart. She painted a nursery corner in soft yellows and blues, bought tiny onesies with her last paycheck, dreamed of a family. Then Connor disappeared. One ordinary Tuesday, she came home from school to find the apartment stripped bare. Her savings account, $42,000 earned from double shifts and skipped meals, was emptied. He left a single note on the kitchen counter. "I'm not ready to be tied down. Don't look for me." Within weeks, the landlord evicted her. Her jobs vanished when morning sickness and exhaustion made her unreliable. She sold everything she could, her grandmother's locket, her art supplies, even her winter boots, to buy food and prenatal vitamins. But it wasn't enough. One freezing January night in her car, the cramps began. Blood soaked the blanket beneath her. She drove herself to the county hospital, gripping the steering wheel with shaking hands, tears blurring the streetlights. The miscarriage happened alone in a charity ward, the nurses kind but overworked, no hand to hold except her own. After that, something inside Elena shattered quietly. She stopped believing in tomorrow. She took day labor cleaning jobs, slept in the Mustang in Walmart parking lots, or under highway overpasses where security wouldn't chase her away. She bathed in gas station sinks, brushed her teeth with bottled water, wore the same socks until they developed holes. Pride kept her from most shelters. Fear kept her from others. Nights were the worst, the cold that seeped through every crack, the loneliness that pressed down like a weight on her chest, the memories that replayed without mercy. She was hungry more often than not, lightheaded from low blood sugar, her hands chapped and bleeding from cheap soap and constant cold. Some mornings she woke so stiff she could barely unfold herself from the back seat. She kept one small photo in the glove compartment, an ultrasound image now creased and faded, the only proof her baby had ever existed. She would touch it sometimes, whisper apologies into the empty car, tears freezing on her lashes. Across the city, in a gleaming River North penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, Vincent Moretti sat alone at a mahogany dining table set for one. At 35, fair-skinned with sharp Italian-American features, dark hair lightly threaded with early silver, he was the undisputed king of Chicago's underworld. His empire spanned gambling, real estate, protection, everything conducted with surgical precision and absolute ruthlessness. His suits were custom, his watches Swiss, his cars armored and immaculate. Money flowed like water, power followed like shadow. Yet every night, after the meetings ended and the city glittered far below, guilt gnawed at him with teeth that never dulled. 20 years earlier, Vincent had loved a woman named Isabella. She had been his light, soft-spoken, fierce-hearted, the only person who could make him laugh until his sides hurt. They married young, dreamed of children, of Sunday dinners with grandparents and playground afternoons. But a rival faction decided Vincent was growing too strong. They couldn't reach him directly. So they took Isabella, abducted her from a grocery store parking lot, left her body as a message on his doorstep. Vincent found her himself. The memory still woke him some nights, chest heaving, hands clenched around sheets that cost more than most people's rent. He had destroyed the men responsible, dismantled their entire organization piece by piece. But vengeance had not brought Isabella back. It had only hardened him, turned love into a weakness he could never again afford. For 2 decades he ruled alone, heart locked behind walls of ice and steel, remorse buried so deep it became a constant, quiet ache. 2 lives, hers defined by crushing poverty and loss, his by untouchable wealth and buried grief, were moving slowly, inexorably toward collision. Neither could have imagined that a desperate moment on a frozen Chicago street would crack both their worlds wide open, letting light flood into places long kept dark. The spring of 2025 arrived in Chicago like a hesitant promise, with cherry blossoms struggling against the last chill along the lakefront trail. Elena Harper, now 30 years old, had survived another brutal winter in her Mustang. But survival had carved deeper lines around her eyes and left her body fragile as fallen leaves. She weighed little more than 100 pounds, her once soft curves replaced by sharp angles beneath layers of donated clothing. Sleep came in shallow fragments, interrupted by security lights sweeping the parking lots where she hid, or by the relentless wind rattling the windows. Some mornings she woke so stiff and cold that tears leaked before she could stop them. Yet something stubborn inside her refused to die completely. She still took whatever day work she could find, cleaning offices after hours, washing dishes in restaurant kitchens, sorting donations at a Southside charity warehouse. Every dollar went toward a dream she barely admitted even to herself. Enough saved to rent a room again, to stand under a real shower, to sleep without one eye open for danger. It was through the charity warehouse that Elena learned about the annual art auction for Chicago Public Schools. The organizer, a kind retired teacher named Mrs. Delgado, noticed how gently Elena handled the boxes of donated art supplies and asked if she would help set up the event. "We need someone who understands what these crayons and paints mean to kids who have nothing," she said. Elena, voice soft and timid, agreed without hesitation. For one evening, she could pretend she still belonged in a world of color and hope. The auction was held in early May at the elegant Drake Hotel on Michigan Avenue, a place Elena had only ever seen from the street. She arrived early, wearing her cleanest jeans and a borrowed black cardigan that hung loosely on her thin frame. Her hair, washed that morning in a public restroom sink, was pulled back neatly. She kept her head down as she arranged easels and framed student artwork, afraid someone might notice her chapped hands or the faint shadows under her eyes. Across the glittering ballroom, Vincent Moretti stood near a window overlooking the avenue, a crystal glass of water in his hand. He never drank at public events. At 35, he cut an imposing figure in a charcoal Brioni suit tailored to his broad shoulders, fair skin contrasting with dark hair and storm gray eyes. To the room, he was simply a successful real estate investor and philanthropist whose generous donations kept certain school programs alive. No one here knew the full reach of his power, the territories he controlled, the quiet phone calls that decided fortunes. But inside Vincent's chest, the old remorse gnawed without mercy. Every charity event reminded him of Isabella, the way she had loved children, the sketches she used to make of the family they never had. Tonight, watching student paintings of city skylines and family portraits, the guilt surged so violently he had to turn away from the displays. 20 years had not dulled the memory of finding her that night, of holding her while life slipped away. He had built an empire on the ashes of that loss, but the ashes still choked him in quiet moments. He moved through the crowd with polite nods, his security discreet at the edges of the room. Then the auction began, and lot after lot sold for impressive sums. When they reached the final item, a charity dinner date with a local volunteer chosen for their dedication to the schools, the MC described Elena in glowing terms. A former art teacher who has given countless hours to help our children express themselves through creativity. Elena stood frozen near the stage, horrified. She had never agreed to this. Mrs. Delgado whispered urgently that it was only dinner, nothing more, and the money would fund an entire summer art program. Elena's cheeks burned with humiliation. She, who hadn't eaten a full meal in days, being paraded as a prize. She wanted to flee, but her legs felt numb. Bidding started slowly. A few older businessmen raised paddles out of courtesy. Then a deep, quiet voice from the back cut through the room. $100,000. The entire ballroom fell silent. Heads turned. Vincent Moretti stood with his paddle raised, expression unreadable. The MC stammered, recovered, asked for higher bids. None came. The gavel fell. Elena's world tilted. Dizziness washed over her. She gripped the edge of a table to stay upright. $100,000 for dinner with her? It was absurd, impossible, terrifying. She felt every eye on her thin frame, her worn shoes, the cardigan that swallowed her. Shame flooded hot and sudden. Who was this man who would spend such money on someone like her? Vincent approached slowly after the auction ended, mindful of the fear in her posture. Up close, Elena saw the silver at his temples, the controlled power in his movements, the faint scar along his jaw that spoke of a life far from ordinary. His eyes, though, those eyes held something tormented, something that made her breath catch. "Miss Harper," he said softly, voice low and steady. "I'm Vincent Moretti. I hope I haven't frightened you." Elena's voice came out barely above a whisper, timid and polite. "No, sir, I don't understand why you—" She trailed off, unable to finish. Her heart pounded with confusion and suspicion. Men with money didn't notice women like her unless they wanted something degrading. Vincent saw the guarded fear, the way her hands trembled, and in that moment, something inside him cracked wide open. He had expected to feel nothing, just another charitable act to quiet the guilt. Instead, looking at this fragile woman with enormous green eyes full of quiet suffering. He felt a surge so intense it was almost pain. It was not pity, it was recognition. He saw Isabella's gentleness in her, saw the strength it took to stand here after whatever hell she had endured. And beneath the remorse for his lost love, something new and terrifying ignited. A fierce, burning need to protect, to shelter, to never let harm touch her again. The violence of it shocked him. His heart, frozen for 20 years, slammed against his ribs. Love, at first sight, impossible, absurd. Yet there it was, overwhelming and undeniable. "I did it," he said carefully, "because those children need someone who cares the way you do. And because," he paused, throat tight, "because I believe good people should not have to fight alone." Elena stared, disoriented. The room seemed to spin. No one had spoken to her with such gentleness in years. She wanted to believe him, wanted it so desperately it hurt, but suspicion coiled tight in her chest. Men lied. Men took. Men left you bleeding in the cold. Yet his eyes held no mockery, only a raw honesty that made her chest ache. They arranged the dinner for the following Saturday at a quiet Italian restaurant Vincent owned in River North. Elena spent the week in a daze of anxiety and hunger. She had nothing suitable to wear. On the day of, she stood in a thrift store dressing room, tears slipping down as she tried on a simple black dress that fit her diminished frame. She looked like a ghost in the mirror, pale, hollow-cheeked, eyes too large. Vincent arrived in a sleek black Escalade, driver holding the door. When Elena emerged from the charity van that had brought her, she nearly stumbled at the sight of such casual wealth. The restaurant was closed to the public that night. Just them, soft lighting, a table by the window overlooking the city lights. He stood as she approached, pulling out her chair with old-world courtesy. The scent of fresh bread and garlic made her stomach cramp painfully. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Vincent noticed the way her hands shook when the server poured water, noticed everything. Conversation began haltingly. Elena spoke softly of her love for teaching art, of how color could heal wounded children. Vincent listened as though her words were precious, asking gentle questions. When she hesitantly mentioned losing her job years ago, pain flickered across his face. Then, halfway through the meal, trouble arrived. 3 men in expensive but flashy suits entered, representatives from a rival faction trying to muscle into Vincent's territory. They had heard he was dining alone and saw opportunity. Their leader, a man named Dante Rossi, approached the table with false friendliness masking threat. "Vincent," he said loudly enough for nearby staff to hear, "didn't expect to find you playing charity with street strays." Elena froze, humiliation crashing over her anew. Vincent's expression turned to ice. He stood slowly, placing himself between Elena and the men. "Leave," he said quietly. The single word carried lethal promise. Dante smirked. "Come on, we're just saying hello. Maybe the lady wants better company." The tension crackled. Vincent's security emerged from the shadows, but he raised a hand. They waited. Dante stepped closer, voice dropping. "Walk away from certain deals, Vincent, or things get unpleasant." Vincent's reply was soft, deadly. "Threaten me again, and you won't walk out of here." A tense standoff followed, seconds stretching like hours. Elena's heart thundered. She had never witnessed such controlled menace. Finally, Dante backed down, muttering curses as his men followed him out. Vincent returned to the table, jaw tight, remorse and fury warring inside him. He had sworn never to bring danger near someone he cared for again, yet here he was dragging this gentle woman into his darkness. But when he looked at Elena, saw the fear in her eyes, but also the quiet gratitude that he had protected her, his heart tore wider. The love surged hotter, more desperate. He would burn cities to keep her safe. I'm sorry you had to see that, he said, voice rough with emotion. Elena's whisper trembled. You stood up for me. No one had done that in years. That night marked the beginning. Vincent began courting her with fierce, quiet intensity, delivering groceries anonymously to the warehouse where she worked, arranging for her Mustang to be repaired, sending warm coats and boots in her size. Each act bewildered and terrified her. She suspected ulterior motives, yet his eyes held only aching tenderness. One rainy June evening, after another confrontation, this time on a South Side street where Vincent's men intercepted a car following her, he found her waiting under an awning, soaked and shaking. Elena, he said, voice breaking for the first time, I can't watch you suffer anymore. Let me help you, please. Standing there in the downpour, thin dress clinging to her malnourished frame, Elena felt the walls she had built crack. The unfairness of her life, the endless cold nights, the hunger, the loneliness, rose like a sob in her throat. And here was this powerful man, tormented by his own ghosts, offering safety with shaking hands. Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. Why me? She whispered. Vincent stepped close, careful not to crowd her, eyes blazing with emotion he could no longer contain. Because the moment I saw you, he said hoarsely, something inside me that died 20 years ago came back to life. Because protecting you is the only thing that quiets the guilt I've carried since I lost the woman I loved. Because, his voice dropped to a raw confession, because I love you, Elena, fiercely, completely, from the first night. The words struck her like lightning. Shock, disbelief, terror, and beneath it all, a fragile, desperate hope she had not felt in years. Her knees buckled. Vincent caught her gently, holding her as sobs tore free. In that rain-soaked moment, two broken hearts began, against all reason, to beat as one. The journey from poverty to protection, from suspicion to surrender, had only just begun, but already love burned between them, passionate and unstoppable, threatening to consume them both. October 2025 painted Chicago in shades of amber and rust, the leaves along the Magnificent Mile swirling like forgotten promises in the crisp wind off Lake Michigan. 3 years had passed since that rain-soaked confession on a South Side street. 3 years since Vincent Moretti had pulled Elena Harper from the brink of oblivion and made her his wife. They live now in a fortified penthouse atop a gleaming River North tower, the kind of place with private elevators, marble floors that gleamed under crystal chandeliers, and windows stretching wall to wall so the city sprawled below like a kingdom at their feet. Vincent's wealth had always been vast, but marriage had intensified its display. Italian leather sofas, original artwork on the walls, a kitchen with appliances Elena still approached with timid awe. Fresh flowers arrived every morning, orchids and lilies in crystal vases that cost more than her old Mustang. The walk-in closet held rows of dresses and coats tailored just for her, soft cashmere and silk that no longer hung loose on her frame. Yet Elena, now 33, still moved through the luxury like a visitor. She had gained weight, yes, her cheeks softly rounded again, her green eyes brighter, but old habits clung like shadows. She chose the simplest dresses from the closet, gravitated toward the least expensive shoes. Some mornings she woke reaching for the car keys to her restored Mustang, parked in the private garage below, half expecting to find herself curled in the back seat under a single blanket. Nightmares still came, the biting cold, the empty stomach, the blood from that long-ago miscarriage staining snow in a hospital parking lot. She would wake gasping, and Vincent would be there instantly, pulling her against his chest, murmuring promises into her hair until the trembling stopped. Vincent watched her with a love that had only grown fiercer, more consuming. At 38, his power had deepened. Territories secure, rivals cautious, the city's elite seeking his favor. His suits were darker now, his presence more commanding, But in their home, he was gentle beyond imagining. He brought her coffee in bed each morning, learned to make the simple oatmeal she still preferred over gourmet breakfasts. He held her hand during quiet evenings on the balcony, tracing circles on her palm while the skyline glittered. Every act was an apology for the years she had suffered alone, a vow that no harm would ever touch her again. But the remorse inside him raged louder than ever. Every time he saw Elena hesitate before accepting a gift, every time her eyes flickered with lingering disbelief that this life was real, guilt tore at him like claws. He had everything: money, influence, men who would lay down their lives at a word. Yet he could not erase the past that haunted her. And deeper still, the ghost of Isabella whispered that he did not deserve this second chance at love. The conflict was violent, joy so intense it hurt, terror that he would lose Elena the way he had lost before, rage at fate for letting her suffer so long before bringing her to him. He became obsessively protective. Bodyguards Sal and Marco shadowed her discreetly wherever she went. Vincent insisted on it, his voice steel when she protested. "The world I live in has enemies," he said one night, eyes tormented. "I will not risk you." Elena, soft and polite even in disagreement, would touch his face and whisper, "I trust you." But the fear in his heart never quieted. She had returned to teaching part-time at her old South Side school, driving the Mustang herself despite Vincent's offers of chauffeurs. The children needed her, she said, the ones who came hungry, in worn coats, with eyes too old for their faces. She understood them now in ways she wished she did not. Vincent funded art supplies anonymously, renovated the school's studio, but Elena insisted on earning her place. It was her bridge back to who she had been before the fall. On a gray December afternoon, December 27th, 2025, Elena decided to do last-minute holiday shopping on the Magnificent Mile. She told Vincent she would be quick, just art supplies for her students and small gifts. He kissed her deeply before she left, murmuring, "Take Sal and Marco. Promise me." She smiled, timid and loving, and agreed. She dressed simply, a warm wool coat Vincent had bought her, soft leather boots, a scarf in deep green that brought out her eyes. The Mustang purred through downtown traffic, holiday music playing low on the radio. For a moment, Elena felt almost ordinary, almost safe. Then the unfairness of the world struck again. Parking near the shops was impossible, every spot taken or metered beyond reason. She circled twice before finding a garage, but when she reached for her wallet, panic surged. Her credit card, the one Vincent insisted she carry with no limit, was missing. She searched frantically, glove compartment, purse pockets, under seats. Gone. Perhaps left at home in yesterday's jeans. Her old debit card held barely $40, remnants of her teacher paycheck she still kept separate out of lingering fear. Humiliation burned hot. Here she was, married to one of the wealthiest men in Chicago, and she could not even pay for parking. She sat frozen in the driver's seat, breath shallow, old terror rising. The memory of having nothing, of choosing between gas and food, of sleeping in this very car because shelter cost money she did not have. Sal and Marco waited discreetly outside the garage entrance. Elena stepped out, cheeks flaming, and approached them softly. I forgot my card," she whispered, voice trembling with shame. "Could one of you—" Marco immediately offered to cover it, but the moment crystallized her lingering disbelief. This life of plenty still felt borrowed, fragile. Inside the glittering stores, the contrast sharpened. Shoppers in designer coats brushed past, arms loaded with bags from Saks and Tiffany. Elena moved carefully among them, choosing modest gifts, sketchbooks, colored pencils, warm gloves for her students. But when she reached the checkout, anxiety spiked again. She had enough cash for the supplies, but not the small silver necklace she had spotted for Vincent, a simple phoenix pendant, symbol of her rising. It cost more than she could afford today. She set it back, throat tight, and paid for the rest with crumpled bills. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and silent. Then trouble found her. As she crossed toward a crosswalk, a black SUV pulled abruptly to the curb. 3 men emerged, representatives of Dante Rossi's faction, still nursing grudges from years of lost territory. They had spotted Vincent's Mustang, recognized Elena. Their leader, a heavy-set man named Luca, blocked her path with false politeness. "Mrs. Moretti," he said loudly, drawing stairs. "Shopping alone? Dangerous these days." Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. Fear flooded cold and sudden. She stepped back, packages clutched to her chest, voice barely audible. "Please, let me pass." Sal and Marco were 20 yards away, moving fast, but Luca's men spread out. "Just a friendly warning," Luca continued, smile cruel. "Tell your husband, some debts aren't forgotten. Accidents happen." The threat hung in the air like ice. Elena's knees weakened, dizziness swirled, memories crashed, Connor's abandonment, nights alone in the cold, powerlessness that had nearly killed her. Tears stung, but she lifted her chin, voice soft yet steady. "Vincent will hear about this." Luca laughed. Then Sal arrived, hand inside his coat, voice low and lethal. "Step away, now." A tense standoff followed, pedestrians hurrying past, snow falling thicker, breaths clouding in the cold. Luca held Vincent's gaze through the chaos, then back toward the SUV. "Happy holidays," he sneered, before driving off. Elena stood shaking, packages slipping from numb fingers. Marco caught them. She felt disoriented, the world tilting, old terror and new love warring inside her. How could she belong in Vincent's world when danger followed like a shadow? That evening, Vincent arrived home early, face carved from stone after Sal's report. He found Elena on the balcony, staring at the city lights through falling snow, coat forgotten despite the chill. When he wrapped his arms around her from behind, she startled, then melted against him. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice breaking. "I should have been more careful." Vincent turned her gently, eyes blazing with emotion, fury at his enemies, guilt that his life endangered her, love so fierce it stole his breath. "You have nothing to be sorry for," he said hoarsely. "This is my failure. I swore to protect you." The inner conflict tore at him violently. He had everything: power, wealth, men loyal to the death, yet could not shield the woman he loved from fear. Remorse for Isabella mingled with terror of losing Elena, creating a storm that threatened to consume him. He knelt suddenly in the snow-damp balcony, taking her cold hands. "I will end this," he vowed, voice raw. "No one will ever threaten you again." Elena's tears fell then, hot against the cold. Shock and gratitude warred with lingering disbelief. She, who had once had nothing, now knelt to by a man who commanded a city. The disparity tore at her heart, pity for the woman she had been, awe at the love she now held. In the quiet that followed, snow muffling the world below, their embrace deepened. Vincent's love burned hotter, possessive and tender, a fire against the lingering shadows of her past. Elena felt it surround her, fierce and unbreakable, and for the first time in years, the cold inside began to thaw completely. But the city held its breath. Rivals circled, and the storm was far from over. The snow fell thicker now on that December afternoon in 2025, blanketing the Magnificent Mile in a hush that made the holiday lights glow softer against the gray sky. Elena Moretti walked carefully along the crowded sidewalk, shopping bags light in her gloved hands, Simple gifts for her students, nothing extravagant. Sal and Marco trailed at a respectful distance, their presence a quiet reassurance Vincent insisted upon. She paused outside Saks Fifth Avenue, drawn by the window displays of glittering ornaments and elegant mannequins draped in holiday finery. For a moment, she allowed herself to linger, breath fogging the air, remembering how she once pressed her face to similar windows years ago, thin coat pulled tight, stomach empty, dreaming of warmth she could not afford. The memory brought a familiar ache, but she pushed it down. That life was gone. She had Vincent now, his love a fierce shield, his wealth a safety she still approached with wonder and lingering disbelief. Then the past reached out and struck her like ice water. He stepped from the store entrance, laughing with a woman on his arm, tall, polished, dripping in designer labels. Connor Reynolds. Older now, hair styled expensively, face carrying the smug ease of unchecked success. He looked exactly as she remembered in her nightmares, handsome in a careless way, eyes cold beneath the charm. Their gazes met across the sidewalk. For Elena, the world narrowed to a pinpoint. Shock slammed into her chest, stealing breath. Her bags slipped from numb fingers, scattering on the snow-dusted pavement. Dizziness swirled. She swayed, one hand reaching blindly for support against the building wall. Memories flooded. His abandonment, the note, the eviction, the blood in the cold car, the hospital charity ward where she lost everything alone. Connor's expression shifted from casual glance to recognition, then to something uglier. Contempt twisted his features. He whispered to his fiancée, who looked Elena up and down with barely concealed disdain. Then he approached, swagger intact, voice dripping condescension. "Elena," he drawled, loud enough for passers-by to hear. "Didn't expect to see you here. Thought you'd be at the discount stores where you belong." The words hit like physical blows. Elena's face burned, humiliation crashed over her in waves. She, who had rebuilt herself from nothing, who now wore a coat worth more than Connor once stole from her, yet in his eyes, she was still the desperate woman he discarded. Her voice came out soft, trembling, polite despite the pain. "Connor, please, just let me go." He laughed, the sound cruel and familiar. "Still playing the victim? Look at you, cleaned up a bit, I see. Found some rich fool to pay your way? That's always been your talent, hasn't it? Making people feel sorry for you?" Each accusation tore deeper. Elena's vision blurred with tears she refused to shed. Around them, shoppers slowed, sensing drama, phones subtly rising. Sal and Marco moved closer, but Elena raised a shaking hand. She needed to face this ghost herself. "You left me with nothing," she whispered, voice breaking. "You took everything. Our baby." Connor's face darkened with rage. "Don't you dare bring up that lie. I told you I didn't want kids. You tried to trap me." The woman on his arm smirked. "Is this the ex you told me about? The one who stalked you?" Elena's world spun faster. Horror and disorientation gripped her, numbness spreading from chest to fingertips. She stumbled back, heel catching on the uneven sidewalk. Connor advanced aggressively, voice rising. "You're embarrassing yourself, as usual." And something inside Elena snapped. Not rage, but a deep, aching grief for the girl who had believed in him. "You destroyed me," she said, tears falling now. "I lost everything because of you." Connor spun toward her, face twisted. "Shut up." He shoved her hard. Elena's shoulder struck a gleaming holiday display, glass ornaments shattering around her as she fell to the cold marble entrance steps. Pain exploded in her palms and knees where they scraped concrete. Her coat tore at the elbow, warm blood trickling. Bags flew, gifts scattering into snow. The world went silent except for the ringing in her ears. She looked up through tears at Connor standing over her, contempt clear. "Stay down where you belong," he snarled. The words echoed her past, homeless, starving, alone. Shame and terror flooded her, violent and numbing. She curled slightly, protecting herself instinctively, breath coming in shallow gasps. Shoppers gasped, phones recorded openly now. Marco was there instantly, helping her up with gentle hands, face pale with fury. Sal had Connor pinned against the wall in seconds, voice deadly calm. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Connor struggled, confusion replacing arrogance. Who the hell are you people? She's nobody. Then Vincent arrived. The crowd parted as his black Escalade screeched to the curb. He emerged like thunder, coat open despite the cold, eyes black with rage. 6 men followed, armed and silent. Security guards stepped back instinctively, recognizing power. Vincent's gaze found Elena first. Blood on her hands, tear-streaked face, torn coat. The sight struck him like a blade to the heart. Remorse and fury collided violently inside him. Guilt that his delayed meeting had left her vulnerable. Terror echoing Isabella's loss. Love so fierce it burned away reason. He crossed to her in strides, kneeling in the snow, hands cupping her face with devastating gentleness. Elena, he whispered, voice breaking. I'm here. She collapsed against him, sobs tearing free. He pushed me. Vincent's arms tightened, trembling with barely contained rage. Over her shoulder, he met Connor's eyes. Recognition dawned on Connor's face, slow, then horrified, as he realized who held the woman he had just assaulted. Vincent stood, lifting Elena carefully as though she were glass. He carried her to the Escalade, settling her inside with his coat around her shoulders. Only then did he turn back. Connor, released by Sal, tried bravado. I didn't know she was... Vincent's voice cut like ice. You put hands on my wife. The word wife echoed. Connor paled. His fiancée backed away, whispering frantically. Vincent stepped close, presence alone forcing Connor against the wall. You abandoned her pregnant and penniless. You caused her to lose a child. You stole her savings, left her homeless in winter. And today, you dared touch her again. Connor stammered denials, but Vincent continued, voice low and lethal. Everything you have, your job, your money, your reputation, will be gone. Not through violence, but through consequences you cannot escape. Security arrived, but one call from Vincent's man and they deferred. The crowd watched in hushed awe as Vincent returned to Elena, gathering her close. Take us home, he told the driver. In the warm silence of the car, Elena clung to him, shock and pain mingling with overwhelming gratitude. The disparity struck her anew. She, who once had nothing, now protected by a man who commanded empires. Tears fell harder. Vincent held her tighter, inner torment raging. Love and guilt warred violently. Joy that she was safe, horror that his world had brought this ghost back to hurt her. He pressed kisses to her hair, whispering vows of protection, heart tearing with the intensity of it all. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the shattered ornaments like a mercy. But inside 2 hearts, the storm had only begun. One ghost confronted, but the war for Elena's peace far from won. The Escalade cut through Chicago's snow-slick streets like a blade, holiday traffic parting instinctively before its tinted windows and armored frame. Inside, silence reigned except for Elena's quiet, broken sobs against Vincent's chest. He held her as though she might shatter, one hand cradling her head, the other stroking her back in slow, desperate circles. Blood from her scraped palms stained his white shirt, each crimson spot a fresh wound in his heart. Vincent Moretti had never felt rage this pure, this consuming. It was not the hot anger of business rivalries or street disputes. This was colder, deeper, a storm that tore at every wall he had built around his soul. Guilt crashed over him in relentless waves. He had been in a meeting across town when Marco's urgent call came, discussing territory lines while the woman he loved more than life itself lay bleeding on a public sidewalk. Remorse for Isabella's death mingled violently with terror of losing Elena, creating a conflict so fierce he could barely breathe. How many times had he sworn no harm would touch her again? Yet here she was, trembling in his arms because his past enemies, and her own, had found a way through his defenses. His love for her, already a wildfire, now roared into an inferno. He pressed his lips to her temple, whispering promises in a voice rough with emotion. "I have you, always." Elena clung tighter, shock and pain numbing her thoughts. The disparity struck her anew. She, who once scraped frost from the inside of her Mustang windows to see the road, now cradled in luxury leather while a powerful man shook with fury on her behalf. Confusion swirled with gratitude, fear with overwhelming safety. Tears fell hotter. She felt small, fragile, yet fiercely protected. They arrived at the penthouse in minutes. Vincent carried her through the private elevator, past staff who averted eyes at the sight of blood. In their master bathroom, marble and gold fixtures gleaming under soft lights, he set her gently on the counter, kneeling to remove her torn coat. His hands trembled as he cleaned her wounds with antiseptic, bandaging scraped palms and elbow with heartbreaking tenderness. "Tell me everything," he said quietly, voice edged with steel. Elena's words came haltingly, soft and timid. He didn't know who I was to you. He thought I was still nothing." The shame of it choked her. Memories flooded again, the nights curled in her car, thin blanket useless against wind seeping through cracks, stomach cramping from days-old bread, pride forcing her to hide from shelters. Connor had seen that broken woman, not the one Vincent had rebuilt with love. Vincent's jaw clenched, remorse tore deeper. He had given her everything: security, warmth, a life far from cold parking lots. Yet one encounter had dragged her back into humiliation. His heart raged against the unfairness. She deserved reverence, not cruelty. As he finished bandaging, his phone buzzed, Sal reporting from the scene. Video of the assault was already spreading online, Connor's name trending. Vincent's expression darkened further. "He will pay," Vincent said, voice low and lethal. "Not with blood, but with everything he values." Elena touched his face, eyes wide with anxiety. "Vincent, please, don't risk yourself." The plea undid him. He pulled her into his arms again, holding as though she were his anchor. Love surged violently, passionate, possessive, born from the first auction night and now unbreakable. "I would burn the city for you," he whispered hoarsely, "but I will do this cleanly, for us." That evening, tension escalated on the streets. Vincent's men located Connor at a Gold Coast holiday party, celebrating as though nothing had happened. Vincent drove himself, black Aston Martin slicing through snow, to a quiet confrontation outside the venue. Dante Rossi's faction, sensing opportunity in the public scandal, shadowed the area, hoping to exploit perceived weakness. Vincent stepped from the car alone, coat open to the cold, presence commanding the sidewalk. Connor emerged minutes later, flushed with champagne and arrogance, fiancé trailing. Seeing Vincent, his bravado faltered. "You," Connor spat. "Whatever you think you are," Vincent's voice cut like winter wind. "You assaulted my wife, in public, after abandoning her years ago to starve and miscarry alone." Connor paled. Nearby, 2 of Rossi's men lingered in a parked SUV, watching. Vincent's security countered subtly, Sal and others emerging from shadows. The standoff stretched, snow falling silently. Connor tried bluster. "She's lying about the past, always dramatic." Vincent stepped closer, eyes burning. "Every dollar you stole, every night she slept in her car, freezing and hungry, I know them all, and now the world will too." Connor's fiancée whispered urgently, pulling him back. Rossi's men revved their engine, testing. Vincent's gaze flicked to them, message clear: interfere and consequences follow. The tension broke when Connor retreated inside, muttering threats. Rossi's SUV drove off slowly. Vincent stood motionless in the snow, heart torn between satisfaction and torment. He had protected her honor without chaos, yet the public exposure would bring new dangers. Back home, Elena waited on the balcony, wrapped in his cashmere throw, city lights reflecting in her tear-filled eyes. When Vincent entered, snow melting on his shoulders, she rose unsteadily. "Is it over?" she whispered, voice soft and fearful. He crossed to her, cupping her face. "The beginning of justice," he said rawly. "He will lose his job, his money, his reputation. Slowly, completely." Elena searched his eyes, seeing the storm within, love and guilt warring violently. Shock rippled through her again. The man who commanded Chicago's shadows knelt to her pain. Tears fell as she leaned into him. In the quiet that followed, snow muffling the world below, Vincent held her tighter than ever. His love burned hotter, a desperate flame against lingering shadows. Remorse for past failures tore at him, but resolve hardened. No one would hurt her again. Yet the city whispered. Videos spread faster. Rivals circled closer. And in Elena's healing heart, gratitude and love for Vincent grew fiercer, mingling with fear of the storm his protection might bring. The night deepened, two souls entwined against gathering darkness, love their light, justice their weapon, the past refusing to stay buried. The hours following the Magnificent Mile assault blurred into a storm of controlled fury inside the River North penthouse. December 27th bled into the 28th of 2025, snow piling against floor-to-ceiling windows while the city slept under holiday quiet. Vincent Moretti did not sleep. He sat in his study, a room of dark wood, leather-bound books, and screens glowing with information, directing the systematic dismantling of Connor Reynolds' life with the precision of a surgeon. Calls went out to contacts in finance, media, law. Evidence gathered over years, bank records of stolen funds, medical documents from Elena's miscarriage, testimonies from other women Connor had exploited, was prepared for release. Not through chaos, but through calculated exposure. Vincent's heart tore with every step. Remorse gnawed relentlessly. He had lifted Elena from poverty's depths, nights when she weighed less than a shadow, ribs visible beneath thin sweaters, waking in her Mustang with frost on her eyelashes, and hunger so sharp it blurred vision, only for her past to strike again. Guilt for Isabella's death resurfaced violently, merging with fresh terror. If his enemies used this scandal to target Elena, the conflict raged, love burning hotter, demanding total protection. Remorse whispering he did not deserve her light after failing once before. Yet his love fueled the ruin. For Elena, he would strip Connor bare. Elena watched from the doorway, wrapped in Vincent's robe that swallowed her frame, bandaged hands clasped. Shock still numbed her, dizziness lingering from the fall, pain throbbing in scraped skin. Memories assaulted. The humiliation of Connor's contempt, the cold sidewalk biting through her coat, echoing nights when concrete was her bed and wind her only companion. She, who once counted quarters for a single meal, now stood in opulence, while her husband orchestrated justice on a scale she could barely comprehend. "Vincent," she whispered, voice soft and timid, "is this too much?" He rose instantly, crossing to her, eyes tormented. "He hurt you. Again, after everything you suffered." His voice cracked. "I cannot let that stand." She touched his face, gratitude and fear warring. The disparity overwhelmed, from scavenging dumpsters behind restaurants to this man who would reshape worlds for her tears. Love surged in return, passionate, consuming, yet suspicion flickered. Could justice this swift be safe? By morning, the collapse began. Connor's firm, an elite investment bank, received anonymous documentation, proof of embezzlement from Elena years ago, patterns with other women. Termination came swiftly, public statements citing ethical violations. His fiancée ended the engagement via social media, post scathing yet careful. Trust fund access frozen, pending investigation. Hashtag MagMile assault trended nationwide, videos viewed millions of times. Vincent watched the fallout on screens, face carved from stone. Satisfaction warred with torment. He protected her, yet dragged her past into daylight. Rivals seized opportunity. Dante Rossi's faction struck midday. Vincent's convoy, returning from a discreet meeting, faced blockage on a loop side street. 3 SUVs hemmed them in, Rossi's men emerging with false smiles masking threat. Vincent stepped out alone, coat unbuttoned despite cold, presence silencing traffic. Dante sends regards, their leader said. Says your attention is divided. Some territories might need renegotiation. Vincent's reply was quiet thunder. Tell Dante my attention is exactly where it belongs. Cross me now, and he loses more than territory. Standoff stretched, engines idling, breaths clouding, security hands poised. Rossi's men backed down first, vehicles retreating. Vincent returned to the car, jaw tight, heart raging. Enemies smelled blood in the scandal. He would not let them near Elena. Back home, Elena waited in the sunlit kitchen, attempting normalcy with tea. Seeing Vincent's tension, anxiety spiked. They came for you because of me, she whispered, voice breaking. He pulled her close, arms trembling. Never because of you, because of my world. Guilt tore deeper. He had promised safety, yet danger circled closer. That evening, another confrontation. Vincent met Connor privately in a neutral downtown garage, flanked by Sal and Marco, Connor alone and haggard. Arrogance gone, replaced by desperation. You can't do this, Connor pleaded. My career, my life. Vincent's voice was ice. You ended hers once, left her homeless in winter, starving, miscarrying alone in a charity ward. $42,000 stolen while she chose between heat and food. Connor paled. She's exaggerating. Vincent stepped closer. The world knows now. Testimonies from others you harmed. Medical records. Bank trails. Your ruin is consequence, not vengeance. Connor crumbled, threats turning to pleas. Vincent turned away, heart conflicted, satisfaction hollow against Elena's lingering pain. Social media exploded overnight. Exposé threads detailed Connor's pattern. Women conned, lives disrupted. His family distanced publicly, accounts seized. By dawn, he was unemployable, broke, reputation ashes. Vincent returned home near sunrise, finding Elena awake on the balcony, snow swirling beyond glass. She rose unsteadily, eyes searching his. It's happening, he said quietly. Everything he took from you, returned with more. His world collapses. Elena's tears fell. Relief, vindication, sorrow for the girl she had been. Shock rippled, from scavenging for survival to this swift justice. She swayed. Vincent caught her, holding as sobs tore free. In the quiet stillness that followed, city awakening below, Vincent's love burned fiercer. He knelt, forehead against hers. You will never suffer again, he vowed, voice raw. Yet inside, torment raged, joy at her vindication, warring with fear that his methods invited greater danger. Elena felt it too, gratitude overwhelming, love mirroring his intensity, yet terror of the shadows his power cast. The ruin was complete, but the storm gathered. Rivals watched. The past refused silence. And in their embrace, 2 hearts beat against gathering darkness, love their fierce light, justice their blade. The days following Connor's ruin passed in a hushed whirlwind inside the penthouse, December 29th and 30th of 2025, blending into fragile quiet. Snow continued to fall over Chicago, softening the city's edges. But inside Vincent and Elena Moretti's world, a different storm raged, silent, emotional, tearing at hearts already scarred. Vincent barely left her side. He orchestrated the final threads of Connor's downfall from his study. Restitution wired to Elena's account, every stolen dollar returned with substantial addition for years of suffering. Public apologies prepared, testimonies sealed. Yet satisfaction eluded him. Guilt gnawed deeper. He had avenged her, but the assault had reopened wounds he thought healed. Remorse for Isabella surged alongside fresh terror. If his enemies struck now, while Elena was vulnerable. The inner conflict grew violent, love burning so intensely it hurt, remorse whispering he brought danger by loving her at all. Elena moved through the luxury like a ghost. Bandages covered her palms, bruises bloomed purple on her knee and elbow. Pain throbbed constantly, but worse was the emotional aftermath. Nightmares returned vividly. The Mustang's cracked dashboard, frost inside windows, hunger so sharp she hallucinated food smells, waking in hospital charity wards alone after the miscarriage. She, who once weighed decisions between gas money and a loaf of bread, now sat at a table laden with meals prepared by private chefs, yet food tasted like ash. Vincent noticed everything. He carried her to the sofa when dizziness struck, held ice to bruises with trembling hands, read to her from books of poetry when silence grew too heavy. His love had always been fierce, but now it consumed. Passionate glances across rooms, touches lingering as though confirming she was real. Yet torment etched deeper lines around his eyes. On the morning of December 31st, concern forced action. Elena woke faint, a strange nausea gripping her despite little eaten the day before. Pain radiated from her side where she had landed hardest. Vincent, face pale with worry, insisted on a private doctor, his trusted physician arriving within the hour, discreet and thorough. In the sunlit bedroom, silk sheets rumpled, Lake Michigan glittering beyond windows, the examination began. Vincent paced the hallway, heart pounding. Memories assaulted. Isabella's final night. Blood he could not stop. If Elena... The doctor emerged, expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Moretti, may we speak privately?" Vincent's world tilted. He followed to the study, bracing. "Mrs. Moretti has a mild concussion from the fall," the doctor said quietly. "Bruising, scrapes, those will heal, but..." He paused, a small smile breaking. "She is approximately 10 weeks pregnant." The words struck Vincent like lightning. He staggered, gripping the desk. Shock flooded, joy so intense it bordered pain, terror crashing immediately after. A child. Their child. After Elena's devastating loss years ago, doctors had warned conception might prove difficult. Yet here, miracle amid storm. Guilt tore violently. He had failed to prevent the assault that could have harmed this fragile new life. Remorse for Isabella twisted anew, dreams of family stolen once, now granted when he least deserved. Love surged, overwhelming, passionate, and desperate. He would protect them both with every breath. He returned to the bedroom, knees weak. Elena sat against pillows, face pale, eyes wide with confusion and dawning fear. Vincent? What did he say? He knelt beside the bed, taking her bandaged hands gently. Tears, rare for him, glistened. "Elena," he whispered, voice breaking, "you're pregnant, 10 weeks." Silence stretched, thick and trembling. Elena's world spun. Shock slammed into her, dizziness worse than after the fall. Numbness spread, she swayed, Vincent steadying her instantly. Memories crashed. The miscarriage alone, blood soaking the Mustang's seat. Nurses' pitying eyes, years believing her body broken by stress and starvation. She, who once could not feed herself, now carrying life within luxury she still feared losing. Tears fell hot and sudden. "It's impossible," she whispered, soft and timid. "After everything." Vincent cupped her face, thumbs wiping tears. "It's real. Our child," his voice raw with emotion. "A miracle." Joy flickered in her, fragile, overwhelming, mingling with terror. The disparity struck harder. From nights when cold winds stole breath through car cracks, malnourished body failing, to this man weeping at their future. Love for him surged in return, intense, burning, born from auction night and now eternal. Yet fear tore at her. The fall. What if I hurt the baby? Vincent's torment deepened. He climbed beside her, holding carefully. "The doctor says the baby is strong, like its mother." But inside, guilt raged. He should have prevented the assault entirely. That afternoon, rivals tested again. Vincent stepped out briefly for a necessary meeting, territory lines strained by the scandal. On a warehouse district street, Rossi's men blocked his path, bold, unexpected. Their leader leaned against Vincent's car. "Congratulations on the family news," he sneered. "Heard through channels. Makes a man vulnerable." Vincent's blood ran cold. Fury and fear collided violently. He stepped close, voice lethal quiet. "Mention my family again, and you won't speak at all." Standoff stretched, snow falling, men poised. Rossi's crew backed away slowly, message received. Vincent returned home faster, heart pounding. He found Elena on the balcony, hand on her still flat abdomen, staring at the city. Snowflakes caught in her hair. Seeing his tension, anxiety flared in her eyes. "They threatened you," she whispered, voice trembling. Vincent pulled her inside, arms protective. "No one touches us." But torment grew, love demanding he shield them, guilt whispering his world endangered the miracle. In the quiet evening, they sat together on the sofa, Vincent's hand over hers on her belly, both trembling. Joy and fear warred violently within them. Elena's tears fell for the child she once lost, for the life now growing despite past despair. Vincent's for the family he never thought possible, terror of failing them as before. Love deepened impossibly, passionate, fierce, a flame against gathering shadows. The miracle bound them tighter, but the storm intensified. Enemies circled. The past echoed. And in stolen stillness, two hearts prepared for whatever came, together, unbreakable. January of 2026 arrived in Chicago with a biting clarity, the snow finally easing to reveal a city washed clean under pale winter sun. Inside the River North penthouse, the miracle of Elena's pregnancy reshaped everything. Soft light filtering through windows onto ultrasound images pinned to the refrigerator. Prenatal vitamins lined neatly on marble counters, Vincent's hand resting instinctively on her still flat abdomen during quiet moments. Yet the storm had not passed. Connor's ruin was complete. Public apology issued on television, voice hollow, eyes defeated. Restitution deposited, every stolen dollar plus compensation that could never repay nights of hunger or the child lost. Social media crowned Elena a survivor, a queen risen from ashes. But victory felt hollow against the lingering ache of old wounds. Elena's heart tore in new ways. Joy for the life growing within warred with terror, memories of the miscarriage haunting every twinge, every moment of nausea. She, who once lay curled in her Mustang, thin body shaking from cold and malnutrition, blood pooling beneath her in a hospital parking lot, now feared history repeating despite luxuries surrounding her. Disparity struck relentlessly, from scavenging for scraps to prenatal care in private clinics. Yet the past whispered she did not deserve this miracle. Vincent's torment deepened to breaking. He funded everything, Best obstetricians, nursery plans and soft neutrals, security doubled. Yet guilt raged. The assault could have cost this child. His world invited threats. Remorse for Isabella collided with desperate gratitude for Elena, love burning so fiercely it consumed sleep. He woke often, watching her breathe, hand over her belly, tears silent. How could he protect them both when enemies circled closer? The idea came during a quiet evening. Elena sat on the balcony, hand cradling the subtle swell now visible beneath loose sweaters, staring at the city that once ignored her suffering. Restitution money sat untouched, hundreds of thousands, obscene against memories of choosing between heat and food. Vincent joined her, wrapping a cashmere blanket around her shoulders. "I want to use it," she whispered, voice soft and determined. "To help women who are where I was, homeless, abused financially, pregnant and alone." Vincent's heart clenched, pride and pain mingling. "Whatever you need." Thus, Phoenix Rising Foundation was born. Vincent matched funds generously, millions flowing discreetly. A Southside building purchased, renovated into warm shelter, private rooms, art therapy studios with easels and paints, job training centers, childcare nursery bright with color. Elena designed it herself, spaces where women could heal through creativity, just as art had saved her. First resident arrived in late January, Sarah, one of Connor's earlier victims, who had reached out online amid the scandal. Thin, eyes haunted, clutching a small bag. Elena greeted her personally, voice gentle. "You're safe here." Sarah's tears fell. "You understand." Elena did, too well. Embracing her evoked memories, nights when wind howled through car windows, sleep impossible from cold and fear, body malnourished to the point of fainting. Humiliation of public restrooms for washing, pride swallowing pleas for help. The disparity tore anew. She, once that woman, now offering sanctuary funded by love and justice. Vincent watched from shadows, heart ripping. Pride in Elena's strength warred with guilt. He provided means, yet she turned pain into purpose. Love surged overwhelming. She, his phoenix, rising not just for herself, but others. Rivals struck again mid-February. During a foundation site visit, Elena inspecting paint colors, a car followed too closely on Lakeshore Drive. Vincent, accompanying discreetly, recognized Rossi's plates. He signaled Sal. Convoy maneuvered. Confrontation erupted at a red light near Lincoln Park. Rossi's men pulling alongside, windows down. "Expanding charity while we watch?" their leader taunted. "Softens a man." Vincent leaned out, voice lethal calm. "My family and its work are off limits. Push further, lose everything." Standoff tensed, traffic halted, horns distant. Rossi's men retreated, but message clear. Vulnerability perceived in Vincent's new priorities. He returned to Elena's side, masking fury. She sensed it, hand trembling in his. "They won't stop," she whispered, fear for the baby sharpening. Vincent pulled her close in the car. "They will learn." Inside, torment raged, love demanding he shield mother and child, guilt whispering his life endangered them. Foundation grew swiftly. Applications poured in, women fleeing abuse, financial ruin, pregnancy amid poverty. Elena interviewed each, voice soft, eyes understanding. Stories mirrored hers, abandoned, homeless in winters, malnourished bodies failing unborn children. Tears fell often. In private, Elena wept for the girl she had been, gratitude and sorrow mingling violently. Vincent funded expansions quietly. Another building, more staff, art scholarships. His wealth displayed intensely, private jets for supply runs, security ensuring safety. Yet he knelt to Elena's vision, heart torn between pride and fear. One March evening, quiet stillness enveloped them. They sat in the nursery, half-finished, soft gray walls, crib of hand-carved wood. Elena rested against Vincent, his hand on her swell. Snow melted outside. Spring hinted. I was so broken, she whispered, voice timid with memory. Sleeping in that car, ribs showing, praying the baby would survive on crackers and hope. Alone. Vincent's arms tightened, tears in his eyes. And now you save others, voice raw. You are everything good I don't deserve. Love surged between them, passionate, intense, born from auction night, forged in fire. He kissed her deeply, carefully, hands reverent on her belly. Yet drama escalated. Late March brought boldest rival move. Rossi's lieutenant cornered Vincent outside a downtown meeting. Public street, witnesses plentiful. Word is you're distracted, he said. Family coming, charity work, makes a king human. Vincent's reply chilled air. Human enough to end threats permanently. Walk away. Lieutenant retreated, but Vincent's heart pounded returning home. Enemies probed weaknesses, the miracle, the foundation. He found Elena painting in the nursery, soft mural of phoenix rising. Seeing his tension, she set brush down, approaching timidly. What happened? He told her gently. Fear flashed in her eyes, hand protective over belly. Because of me, the baby. Vincent knelt, forehead to hers. Because of my world, but I will burn it down before letting harm near you both. In condensed stillness, tears fell. Elena's for past suffering reborn in fear. Vincent's for guilt that his love brought danger. Yet love burned brighter, fierce vow binding them. Phoenix Rising opened doors in April. Ribbon cutting drew quiet crowd. Women helped, donors discreet. Elena spoke softly into microphone. I know what it's like to have nothing, to lose everything, but second chances exist. Vincent stood beside, pride and torment warring. His phoenix, not just risen, but lifting others. The foundation became purpose, healing old wounds while new threats loomed. Love sustained them, passionate, unbreakable, against gathering darkness. Miracle and mission intertwined, hearts torn yet stronger for it. The storm raged on, but hope, fierce as fire, burned eternal. April bloomed across Chicago in 2026, with tentative warmth, cherry blossoms drifting like soft promises along the lakefront. The Phoenix Rising Foundation had opened its doors only weeks earlier, yet already lives were changing. Women arriving with haunted eyes and small suitcases, leaving with hope flickering where despair once ruled. Elena Moretti, now 6 months pregnant, moved through the building with quiet purpose, her swell gently rounded beneath loose dresses, hand often resting protectively on the life within. The miracle sustained her, but the past still cast long shadows. Memories surfaced unbidden. The Mustang's cracked vinyl seats sticking to thin legs in winter, breath fogging as she counted change for coffee to stay awake in safe parking lots. Body so malnourished that periods stopped for months, ribs visible in gas station mirrors. She, who once wept over a single stolen loaf of bread, now directed staff in a facility funded by millions. The disparity tore at her heart daily, gratitude overwhelming, yet guilt whispering she had not earned this redemption. Vincent's inner world raged darker. He watched Elena's growing radiance with love so intense it bordered agony, passionate glances following her, touches lingering as though memorizing her. The child quickening under his palm at night filled him with joy he had never dared dream after Isabella. Yet remorse and fear warred violently. Enemies probed relentlessly, seeing family as weakness. Guilt gnawed. He had brought Elena from cold nights into his dangerous orbit. Every rival glance felt like threat to mother and unborn daughter. Public reckoning for Connor arrived on a crisp May morning. National news carried the live broadcast. Connor Reynolds, once polished and arrogant, now haggard in a plain suit, standing before cameras in a neutral studio. His voice shook as he read the prepared statement, scripted under legal pressure, yet undeniable truth. I want to apologize publicly to Elena Moretti, formerly Elena Harper, he began, eyes downcast, for the pain I caused. I stole from her, abandoned her when she was pregnant and vulnerable, and contributed to circumstances that led to her miscarriage. Years later, I physically assaulted her in public. There is no excuse. He continued, acknowledging other women harmed, promising therapy, accepting consequences. The broadcast ended with him facing the camera directly. Mrs. Moretti, I am deeply sorry. You deserved far better. Social media erupted. Hashtags soared. Magmile monster fallen. Queen risen. Second chances real. Comments poured in. Support for Elena overwhelming. Stories shared of similar betrayals. From sleeping in her car to building a foundation, she's inspiration. That man destroyed her, and her husband rebuilt the world for her. Vincent watched beside Elena in their living room, her hand in his. She sat very still, tears silent on cheeks. It's over, he whispered, voice rough. Yet inside her, turmoil raged. Vindication flooded, sweet, long denied. The girl who once begged for mercy from eviction notices, who miscarried alone in charity wards, now saw her abuser humbled before millions. Tears fell for past suffering, nights when wind screamed through car windows, hunger pains doubling her over, blood and loss in snow-lit parking lots. Shock rippled, she, powerless then, now publicly validated. Vincent pulled her close, sensing the storm. His own heart tore. Pride in her strength, guilt that justice required exposing her pain anew. Rivals escalated that afternoon. Vincent attended a discreet downtown lunch, neutral ground with minor associates. Leaving the restaurant, Rossi's men waited, bold, public. Their leader blocked the sidewalk. Public hero now? He mocked. Apologies on TV, charity queen. Makes you look weak, Moretti. Vincent stopped, presence chilling air. Associates froze. My wife's strength is not your concern. Family men make mistakes, the man pressed. Accidents happen. Threat hung explicit. Vincent stepped close, voice deadly soft. Harm my family, and your organization ceases to exist. Standoff stretched, pedestrians diverting, tension electric. Rossi's men backed away slowly, but message delivered. Vincent returned home faster, face carved from stone. Elena met him in the foyer, sensing danger. What happened? He told her gently. Fear flashed, hand protective over belly. They're using me. The baby, the foundation. Vincent knelt, arms around her. I will end it. Inside, torment peaked, love demanding total war, remorse whispering, violence begets violence, endangering the miracle. That evening, quiet descended. They sat in the nursery, walls now muraled with phoenix and stars, crib assembled. Elena rested against Vincent, his hand on her swell feeling kicks. Stillness wrapped them. I never thought I'd have this, she whispered, voice soft with memory. After losing everything, car living, ribs showing, praying for death some nights. Now, justice, purpose, you, our daughter. Vincent's tears fell silent. You saved me, Elena, from the darkness I lived in after Isabella. Love surged, passionate, intense, binding them. He kissed her deeply, carefully, hands reverent. In stillness, heart spoke. Past suffering redeemed, future fiercely guarded. Yet drama escalated days later. Connor's final humiliation came indirectly. Leaked audio of his breakdown, begging associates for help, voice cracking over lost life. Public sympathy shifted entirely to Elena. Donations flooded Phoenix Rising. Waiting list grew. One June afternoon, another confrontation. Vincent escorted Elena to Foundation, rare public appearance. Paparazzi snapped photos, supporters cheered quietly. Rossi's men shadowed in traffic, pulling alongside at light. Windows down, taunt thrown. Happy family photos? Careful, cameras miss things. Vincent's security countered instantly, vehicles boxing threat. Vincent leaned out. Last warning. They retreated, but Elena trembled, dizziness striking. Vincent pulled over, holding her as panic rose, memories of powerlessness, fear for child. Home again, she wept. I can't lose this too. Vincent's torment broke. You won't. Vow steel, love fire. Public crowned Elena unequivocally. Interviews praising resilience, Foundation national news. Connor vanished from society, broken. In condensed stillness that night, overlooking city lights, Vincent held Elena close, her swell between them, Kick's gentle reminder. Past reckoned, justice served. Love, fierce, burning, victorious. Yet shadows lingered, rivals waited, the greatest storm loomed. But in this moment, hearts healed, torn yet whole. Phoenix fully risen, wings spread wide. July heat shimmered over Chicago in 2026, the city humming under a relentless sun that turned asphalt soft and lake air thick. Elena Moretti, now 8 months pregnant, moved with careful grace through the Phoenix Rising Foundation's first annual gala, held in a transformed warehouse turned elegant venue, string lights twinkling above tables set with white linens and fresh flowers from local shops. The evening celebrated lives changed, 30 women housed, dozens more in programs, children laughing in the new daycare. Elena glowed in a simple emerald gown that accommodated her swell, hand often resting where their daughter kicked vigorously. Vincent stood beside her, proud and protective, his custom tuxedo accentuating broad shoulders, fair skin tanned lightly from lakefront walks. Yet beneath the celebration, tension coiled. Vincent's cousin and underboss, Nico Moretti, blood family, raised almost as brother after Isabella's death, had grown distant. Jealous whispers reached Vincent. Nico resented the softening, the resources poured into charity, the family that made Vincent vulnerable. Vincent dismissed them. Blood was blood. The gala began beautifully. Speakers shared stories. Sarah, first resident, voice steady as she thanked Elena. Applause swelled. Elena spoke last, soft and heartfelt. I know what it is to have nothing, to sleep in a car through winter nights, thin from hunger, losing everything. But second chances are real. Vincent's eyes shone, love burning fierce, pride and remorse mingling. He who commanded empires knelt to this woman who turned suffering into salvation. Then betrayal struck. Mid-speech, doors burst open. Armed men in black masks flooded the hall, not Rossi's, but Nico's loyalists. Chaos erupted, guests screaming, tables overturning. Nico emerged last, face cold. Vincent, he called over panic, you've gone soft. Time for new leadership. Vincent's world shattered. Shock slammed into him. Betrayal from blood, deepest cut. Remorse for trusting, guilt for endangering Elena and child, fury exploding violently. Love surged desperate. He shoved Elena behind him, body shield. Protect the women, he roared to security. Gunfire cracked, warning shots into ceiling. Vincent lunged toward Nico, but attackers swarmed. He fought hand to hand, taking blows, shielding guests. Elena, adrenaline surging despite pregnancy, grabbed a fallen tray, swinging to protect a terrified resident. Then shots aimed true. Vincent took two. One grazing lung, one shoulder. Pain exploded. He staggered, blood-soaking tuxedo. Elena screamed, rushing to him as he collapsed near the stage. Vincent! He hit the floor hard, vision blurring, blood pooling. Guests cowered. Security returned fire carefully. Elena knelt, cradling his head, hands slick with his blood. Horror flooded, dizziness, numbness, world tilting. Memories assaulted, past powerlessness, now this. Losing him as she once lost everything. "No," she sobbed, voice breaking. "Don't leave me. Our daughter." Vincent's eyes found hers, fading but fierce. "Don't you raise her without me," he rasped, hand reaching for her belly. Chaos peaked, Sal and Marco rallying, attackers retreating under return fire. Nico fled last, face twisted with failed ambition. Ambulance sirens wailed arrival. Paramedics swarmed Vincent, stabilizing as Elena clung, refusing separation. Ride to hospital blurred, her contractions starting from stress, fear tearing soul. In emergency room, surgeons rushed Vincent into theater, lung wound critical. Elena, monitored nearby, gripped a nurse's hand, tears endless. Shock numbed, past poverty flashing, alone in blood, now possibly alone again despite wealth. Disparity cruel, from cold car nights, malnourished and lost, to this, love nearly stolen by betrayal. Vincent's men secured hospital. Nico hunted. Hours stretched. Elena paced despite pain, hand on belly. Daughter kicked fiercely, as though fighting too. Love for Vincent burned overwhelming. Passionate vow, he would live. Inside Vincent's fading consciousness, torment peaked. Guilt for trusting Nico, remorse for endangering family, love desperate to survive for Elena and child. He fought darkness, clinging to her face, their future. Security held. Rossi's faction even sent word disavowing Nico, fearing Vincent's wrath. Dawn crept when surgeon emerged. "He's stable," he said. "Lost blood, lung repaired. Strong man. He'll pull through." Elena collapsed, sobbing, relief violent, gratitude tearing heart. She, who once had nothing, now given everything, only to nearly lose it. In recovery, Vincent woke to her beside bed, hand in his, belly prominent. Eyes met, love exploding raw. "You came back," she whispered, voice timid with leftover fear. "For you," he rasped, "always." In condensed stillness, tears mingled. Past suffering, her poverty, his loss, redeemed in survival. Love burned brighter, fierce, eternal, against betrayal's ashes. Nico's fate sealed, Vincent's loyalists closed net. But in this moment, family held. Betrayal exposed deepest wounds, but love, passionate, unbreakable, healed stronger. Storm raged, yet Phoenix endured. Miracle safe. Hearts, torn violently, began mending, together. August heat gave way to September's gentle breeze in 2026. The Chicago skyline shimmering under clearing skies after the longest storm Vincent and Elena Moretti had ever faced. Vincent recovered slowly in the penthouse, scars healing on shoulder and chest, strength returning day by day. Nico's betrayal ended swiftly. Loyal men closed the circle, ambition silenced forever. The city whispered no more challenges, power reaffirmed, yet Vincent's heart had changed irrevocably. He ruled now not through fear alone, but through the fierce knowledge that true strength protected the vulnerable. Elena, days from delivery, rarely left his side. Her pregnancy had held despite trauma, daughter strong, kicks constant reminders of miracle. Yet nights brought torment, dreams of past poverty, thin body shivering in the Mustang, wind howling through cracks, hunger gnawing until consciousness faded, blood and loss alone under hospital fluorescence. She woke, gasping, hand on belly, tears for the woman she had been. Disparity struck relentlessly. She, once powerless and starving, now surrounded by wealth that still felt borrowed. Vincent held her through every nightmare, remorse tearing deeper, guilt for the ambush, for blood spilled near her and child, warred with gratitude she lived. Love burned hotter, passionate, primal, born auction night, forged in fire. He whispered vows in darkness, never again. Delivery came early October, peaceful, private suite overlooking lake. Aurora Phoenix Moretti entered the world crying strong, tiny fists waving. Vincent wept openly holding her, daughter with Elena's green eyes, his dark hair. Elena, exhausted yet radiant, touched his tears. "Our miracle," she whispered, voice soft. In condensed stillness, family formed, past suffering redeemed. Vincent's empire shifted subtly, profits redirected, more foundations, scholarships, shelters. He met former rivals on neutral streets. No threats, only offers. "Protect the city together," he said. Many accepted. Peace grew. Rossi himself appeared one afternoon outside a cafe, tense standoff dissolving into handshake. "Family changes a man," Rossi muttered. Vincent nodded. Wealth displayed intensely yet humanely. Private care for Aurora, expansions for Phoenix Rising, anonymous aid to women still on streets. One crisp December evening, Christmas Eve 2026, Vincent carried Elena over threshold of new lakefront estate. Sprawling yet warm, nursery overlooking water, security invisible yet absolute. He gifted custom platinum phoenix necklace, studded with Aurora's birthstone, plus deed to city block for foundation growth. Elena gasped, tears falling. "You give too much." He knelt, eyes blazing love. "Never enough for what you've given me." Snow fell softly outside. They stood on balcony, Aurora sleeping inside, city lights twinkling like stars. Elena leaned into him. "I was so broken. Cold nights in that car, body failing from hunger, sleep impossible from fear and wind. Alone. Yet you saw worth." Vincent's voice broke. "You saved me from darkness I deserved. Your love, despite everything, is grace I'll spend life repaying." Love detonated then, raw, fierce, all-consuming. He pulled her close, kissed deep and desperate, hands reverent on her post-birth curves, mindful yet passionate. Tears mingled, vows whispered against skin. In cold air, fire burned, love transcending past poverty, present power, skin color, circumstance. Wealth and want could not separate compassion. Hearts recognized hearts. Later, gathered by fireplace, Aurora in arms, estate glowing, quiet descended. Past unjust nights, betrayals, losses faded against this. Family forged in fire, risen stronger. Life lessons settled gently. Knowledge of suffering taught empathy. Knowledge of redemption built hope. Knowledge that love crosses every divide gave courage. Knowledge of second chances healed wounds. Knowledge shared through education and lesson became light for others. Lesson after lesson. Compassion over cruelty. Forgiveness over vengeance. Education in resilience. Lesson in vulnerability's strength. Education through shared stories. Vincent spoke softly to sleeping Aurora. "Grow, knowing love conquers all." Elena smiled through tears, heart full. They had survived betrayal, near loss, past ghosts. Love, passionate, explosive, eternal, reborn them. If you've stayed until the end of this journey, thank you from the depths of my heart. Knowledge reminds us that no night is endless. Knowledge shows love bridges every gap. Knowledge teaches compassion changes worlds. Knowledge through education lifts others. Knowledge of shared humanity unites us. Please hit like if this story touched you. Subscribe to Alex Truths for more heartfelt tales every day, and share with someone who needs hope. Comment below, how did this story make you feel? Does it connect to real life? Share your emotions. I read every one, listening to the hearts behind the words. Wishing you all good health, joyful lives, and daily peace. See you in the next video. Disclaimer: all stories on this channel are fictional and created solely for entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to real people, events, or places is purely coincidental.